All right, welcome back to Joints Unleashed. It is December 24th. It is New Year's Eve. Christmas Eve, and work never ends. And today is not just a regular hanging out day. Today is the day that I have to work and I have to train. Got a marathon coming up and a half Ironman coming up. For those who don't know, got a marathon in March or on March 3rd. I have a half Ironman on June 8th. So this video series is just to work on the flexibility of my hips and knees, and at the same time working on leg lock systems for jiu-jitsu. So those are for the people who are new. And all right, let's get this video started. All right, welcome back to Joints Unleashed week 5. All right, so hopefully you've been enjoying the series so far. Today, what I want to do is I want to give you some examples of some mobility exercises that I do for a warm-up when it comes to my high-intensity training. Now, the high-intensity training could be training for jiu-jitsu, training for Ironman, or training for marathon. Those are the 3 events in my life currently. So I have to make sure that my body is prepared to do all of these 3 activities. Now, the marathon is similar, or it's the same as the Ironman. It's just longer runnings. Because this year I'm doing a half Ironman versus a full Ironman. Full Ironman is the goal for 2025 with Lissy. She doesn't know it yet, but we are gonna do it together, and the goal is Arizona for 2025. That should be in October. So I'm very, very excited. Actually, she knows, I already told her my plan. I don't know if I should ruin the surprise, but her plan is to go to Alaska to visit her dad, and her dad, Jim, is the one who got me into TI. TI is total immersion swimming, and that's the technique that I use to learn and to use during Ironman. The soft goal for Lissy and I to do a full Ironman together in 2025, she's going to Alaska to visit her dad for holidays, but at the same time, she's gonna ask him to teach her the TI technique. So her dad got into TI technique long time ago, and Lissy never was really interested in learning. So now this will be the first time her asking him to teach her how to swim TI, and I know he's gonna be super excited. He was very excited for me to learn, and I'm sure he's gonna be very excited for her to learn. So I'm really excited to see those two to come together and learn how to swim. So that will be coming up later in another video down the line. But let me show you some of the things that I do for warm-up. Now, I don't do these all the time, but I kind of wanted to make sure that I put out some exercise examples other than the stuff that I've been learning on knees over toes and with Kelly Starrett. So these are some movements that I've been doing for a long time that have been very effective for me when it comes to warming up. Now, when I'm talking about these warm-ups, these mobility exercises, this is mainly more for my hips. And the byproduct of this exercise or these movements are the flexibility of my knees in this deep range of motion. Now, my strength, or my weakness I should say, is any type of external rotation or internal rotation of the hip. Now, I'm now focusing on it now, but I've known my whole life that these have been my biggest weakness or my tightest muscles. And being a typical person, I've procrastinated on working on my weakness because I knew it was gonna be difficult, I knew it was gonna be hard. This is why I'm focusing now with the video series, because I'm highly motivated to keep myself accountable when I'm creating content. So unfortunately, it's taken me 45 years to finally work on it, but better late than never. But one of the things that I worked on a lot, probably starting about 10 years ago when I first was introduced to Kelly Starrett, was the deep squat. When I first started, my squat was probably up to here. And I remember when I went to NASM, it was a certification, my personal training certification, the National Academy of Sports Medicine, they came up with this grid and the grid was behind you, and you performed certain movements based on the grid, based on the joints and the alignment, would determine what type of deviations one had. So I remember when I did mine, I have my results somewhere, I should look them up somewhere and retest. That was back in 2004, so I'll definitely look that up. And I remember my hips just being so out of alignment and being very limited in the movements that they had me do. Now we're talking about easy movements, a squat, a single leg squat and a regular squat. So when I first started, again, I was very limited. I was very tight in my hips. And one of the things that I really worked on, again, when I first was introduced to Kelly Starrett, was the deep squat. Now, my deep squat, I'm kind of not warmed up, so hopefully I go low. So I worked really hard for a long time doing my deep squat. So it took me, like I said, it took me a long time to get down this low, being able to drop into a squat, having my feet face forward, and have my heels on the ground. So when I first learned, or when I first was able to do this, I was, ecstatic. I was really happy, and I wrote on my success, and I never focused on the external rotation because like, oh, I can squat. And squatting is very good, but it's only good in a linear position. Any type of movement outside of that, my hips, then you can really see the tightness of the hips. So that was one thing that I really worked on, was that deep squat and getting my hips to open, opening up my inner thighs so that my knees can open when I come down. So it was a lot of hard work, but I did it, which now brings me to this. So one of the warm-ups that helped me get into my squat, and again, I really do this for all my activities, is I call these squat walks, right? I'm squatting and staying in that deep squat, but I'm going side to side. So it's a, I don't know what they're called, but I call them squat walks. So I get down nice and low, okay? I open up my knees, drop my hips, and then what I do is with my hands, place them on the ground, jump across, get into that deep squat, and then go a certain amount of repetitions to one side. I'll go a certain amount of repetitions to the other side. So then I go into rotation, really allow the knees and the hips to kind of roll around. So that exercise, or that warm-up, or sorry, that mobility movement is one of my favorite exercises to do to get my knees to fully bend and get my hips to fully bend to prepare me for my high intensity exercise. So again, great for the hamstrings, great for the inner thighs, great for the hips. I love that movement. Now another movement that I focus on is called a inchworm. Now the inchworm focuses on the strength of my ankles, the flexibility of my hamstrings, and two things, the strength of my shoulders and my core strength, because it requires a lot of flexibility in the hamstrings and a lot of core stability. So this is how we do the inchworm. So I'm going to start off in a standing position. I hinge my hips. So I'm in a bent over position. I place my hands on the ground. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk forward. Now as I walk forward, my goal is to get my hands past my head. Once my hands are past my head, now my core has to maintain the stability in this plank position. Once I max out, I'm walking with just the ankles. And then I'm walking as close to my hands as possible, which requires a lot of flexibility in the hamstring. And then I continue. Running out of mat, slowly walk, and stretch my hamstrings. I really enjoy this one to stretch out my hamstrings, and I really enjoy the last exercise to get me into that deep squat. Two of my favorite movements to do before a workout to warm up and to loosen my body. So I wanted to share those two exercises with you. Hopefully you guys enjoy it as much as I do. And again, good luck. Now what I want to do is I wanted to give you an update on my current training and just an update of everything that's been going on. So yesterday was Christmas, so there's a lot of things to do when it comes to the holidays. Visiting people, Christmas parties, all that good stuff. And which makes training just a little difficult for that week. So if you guys have missed your training during the holidays, it's very understandable. But the number one thing is to immediately get back into the training so that way the holiday downtime does not become a habit, right? Continue the habit of working out, and that way getting back into the gym or getting back into working out doesn't become difficult. So two things. Number one, what I didn't explain before with all these flexibility exercises or mobility exercises is that the most important thing to remember is your breathing. Make sure that you convince the brain that whatever position that you're attempting to learn or get into, that it's a comfortable position and a safe position. So now one of the things you really want to minimize is the faces that you're making when you're stretching, right? See if you can go down into the new range of motion comfortably, slowly, and taking deep, deep breaths. So for example, if I were stretching my hamstrings, right? I'm gonna hinge my hips. I wanna get to a certain point, and once I max out in my position, right? Now I just wanna ease into this new range of motion by slowly breathing. And then once I gain new range of motion, make sure you can see if you can continue that range of motion by breathing. So little by little, ease into your new range, but breathe into your new range, right? Convince the brain that it is safe to get into that new range so that your brain doesn't fight it. If your brain is fighting it, then it's not going to increase the flexibility because you're convincing the brain that it's not safe. So convince by easing into your movement and by breathing. All right, a quick little tip. And as for an update, the marathon's coming up quick, March 3rd. We're coming up to the end of the year. Rosa is doing amazing. She's in Hong Kong right now, and I still, via my watch, see her workouts, that she's continuing her workouts, no matter if she's on vacation or not. So I think we're gonna have a great time on the marathon and an easy time on the marathon. So very excited to see her dedicating herself to her second marathon. I think a lot has changed from the first marathon to the second marathon. I can see that now she knows what to expect, that she's a lot more dedicated in her training. So awesome work to her. And then for the half Ironman, my boy Adley, him and I will be training together when he's in town. So we'll love to get some video of him and I training. We're definitely gonna be swimming because that's gonna be our weak point of the 3 disciplines. So there's a lot more content to be created, but right now, again, since we're just focusing on the joints unleashed, the flexibility is the primary focus, but with time continuing to fly on by, I definitely need to start training again on the bike, training again on the swimming, because that Ironman, the half Ironman is gonna come up quick. The running, I'm not really worried about. In the last video series, the running was my biggest weakness because it was mental. I really didn't enjoy running. I don't mind running anymore. I'm not saying that I like it, but it's much easier than it was before. So running to me right now is not an issue. Getting back on the bike and getting back into the water, I mean, it is cold outside, and that is the reason why I've been procrastinating getting back in the water. Being cold is not the business. But I have been I've been cold plunging in my backyard consistently, so I'm not afraid of the cold water anymore. It's just old ways of thinking that I need to get over. So I'll definitely get some videos of me dunking, and I guess there's nothing else to show, so I'll see you guys next week.